Despite the unrest in his city, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey still isn't budging on his refusal to cooperate with ICE.
We were never going to agree, and we have not agreed to enforce federal immigration law. Why? First off, it's not our job. I want our police officers doing the important work of keeping Minneapolis residents safe. I don't want them spending a single minute hunting down a father that just dropped his kids off at daycare, who's about to go work a 12-hour shift, who happens to be from Ecuador.
Who happens to be illegal and committing crimes. All right, the head of a major Twin Cities police union is slamming local officials for blocking cooperation between local police and ICE. Mark Ross is the president of the St. Paul Police Federation, and he joins us now. Mark, thank you for joining us. One of the biggest points of contention has been this idea that ICE wants to apprehend criminal illegal aliens that are in prisons and jails. Now, the Department of Corrections says they've honored all those retainers and handed people over as they end their term, their obligated term of sentence. But I guess part of the problem is that jails and prisons are different. Jails are ran by counties and cities. So have you seen any cooperation there, or do you see anything that would prevent cooperation there? What are the jailers and the sheriffs telling you?
Well, thank you for having me. I think the only thing that's going to prevent cooperation is our political elected officials. It's up to these sheriffs and local government officials, county boards, to dictate whether or not they're going to cooperate with these ICE detainers. I think any reasonable person agrees that that is a reasonable solution to turn these people over to ICE when they're released from our jails. Just think about this one time. These are people that have not only committed crimes in our state, meaning local crimes, they're also wanted federally. I don't see where there should be much debate about whether or not those people should be turned over to ICE upon their release from our jails.
Real quick on that, so is the argument that if someone is picked up for suspected crimes, put into a jail, are some of these local leaders saying, well, they're not actually criminals yet, so we're not going to hand them over? Like, what is the basis of their argument for not cooperating?
I wish I had the answer to that. I think they're just not letting our federal partners know that there are people in their jails that are wanted federally, and they're just releasing them back into the community, which makes things more dangerous, because then our federal partners have to go out and apprehend them. It'd be so much easier if our local counties would hand these people over to the feds. There shouldn't be much debate there.
Mark, Anita Vogel here. As we've been reporting, Tom Homan, border czar, is on the ground there. Here's what he says he wants to see happen in order to reduce the number of federal agents in Minnesota. Take a listen.
The president wants to de-escalate the situation. We're going to have a mass deportation, but we're going to prioritize the arrest of criminals and public safety threats. Meeting with the governor and AG and Mayor Frey, here's what we came out with. The state prison system will honor our retainers. So if we get that cooperation, which we're working on, we got some commitments here, that means we can draw down on the number of agents there because we're in the jails. And that's what President Trump wants.
Yeah, he's really urging this cooperation between federal and state officials. Would local police support this move?
Oh, I would say wholeheartedly most local police will definitely support that move. I will say since border czar Homan's arrival in the Twin Cities, the temperature has come down quite a bit. It sounds like he's had some very productive meetings with city leadership on both sides of the river in the Twin Cities here, and police leaders and some of the local electeds. That's what we need. We need to cooperate a little bit because they're not going anywhere. And the lack of cooperation and complete defiance from our local electeds has led to the death of two people, in my opinion. I think that those deaths could have been prevented. Tragically, we're here today because of that.
And Mark, along those lines, broadly speaking, what do your members say to you? How frustrating is it to them to not be able to help their brothers and sisters in law enforcement with this operation in the way that I'm sure that they want to, because law enforcement really is a brotherhood, a sisterhood?
It is, and their jobs and our jobs, they are different, but they're intertwined. So when our partners at the federal level are in the communities trying to do their jobs, they have a mission. When they're doing things legally, when things get out of hand, yes, it's in our nature. We took an oath. We want to go help them. And it just hasn't been productive for us not to. If we can just handle some of the crowd control and some of these bigger situations, I think we'd be in a different place. But I would say our members they're confused, they're frustrated, and they just want to go out and keep people in the community safe.
Yeah, we've got Mayor Jacob Frey, who is encouraging other cities to follow his lead, Mark. What's your message to officials in other communities? Should they follow the mayor's advice, or should they listen to their local police enforcement?
Well, I think, first of all, you should let cops be cops. I don't think the blueprint here is a good blueprint. We have 2 members of our community that are tragically no longer with us. There's, because of, in my opinion, a total lack of cooperation at the local level. So yeah, it's sad, and we need to work in partnership with the federal government. They're not going anywhere. So the next best option is we collaborate, we communicate, and we work together to make this go as quickly, efficiently, and safely as possible.
Hey, real quick, I got one more question for you. I read the New York Post piece that you gave some quotes to, or they quoted you in it. And one thing you talked about in there was this idea that if local police were there, instead of Border Patrol doing some of the security around the operation, you basically said they don't have to necessarily coordinate with and be a part of it, but they could come and be crowd control. What we're really talking about here are people blowing whistles, following ICE, tailgating them, and getting in the middle of the operation, just like Good and Pretty did. So regardless of what you think of the lawful shoot, just them being that close to ICE while they're conducting their operation, you said you believe that local police would have stopped that. Is that protocol? Is that how, say this operation were something that the city fully believed in, is that protocol? Would you have protesters? Would local police have them push back? Would you establish a cordon? Educate us quickly on what that should look like.
If we had the ability on the front end to coordinate on a major operation, yes, we could set a perimeter. We have the tools, we have the training, we have the leadership to take care of crowd control. That's something we put a ton of effort into since the Republican National Convention back in 2008. Then we hosted a Super Bowl, a Final Four. Obviously, the riots after George Floyd. We have a lot of experience in this area. I don't think our partners, from the Border Patrol have that type of experience. So then you put them in this environment and expect them to manage crowd control in a large urban area. I don't think that that's reasonable. And not to mention, we're there to keep the community safe and these officers safe so they can effectively do their jobs. If people are going to impede, interfere, assault our federal partners, that's inherently dangerous behavior, and because of that, we have been put in a really, really tough position.
You know, Mark, I don't know how you feel about ICE, but I know that you care about your community and you care about your law enforcement officers, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us tonight.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.